All right, today we are talking about one of the most misunderstood horror movies in the history of horror movies. Let's pull it off the shelf. Welcome to OTS Movies, the channel where we talk about physical media, Blu-rays, 4Ks, and DVDs, and we also just talk about movies. So if you're a physical media collector, want to be a physical media collector, you're in the right spot. If you just want to talk about movies, we are also here for you. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you like what you see, that would be great. Hit me a like. It really helps get the word out about this channel and what we're doing. Production value is a little different today, I know. I make no promises about how often I'm going to do it this way, but anyway, what are we pulling off the shelf today? It is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. And I stand by what I said. It's not hyperbolic. This is literally one of the most understood horror movies in the history of horror movies. People hate this movie, and this thing is actually wonderful. I'm going to make a hot take right now. This movie is as good as the first movie. But it's like comparing oranges and lemons. They're both citrus, but they're different. But they're not as different as you might think. So let's talk about this for a minute. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre comes out, and people are freaked out about this movie. It's still to this day called, 50 years later, called one of the scariest movies ever made. And I completely agree with that. It is terrifying. The problem with the movie is the horror elements of the movie are just so damned effective. I think part of it is the actual attitude of what was happening on set. It was so miserable for the filmmakers and the actors and everyone involved that attitude came forward in the movie and made it more disturbing. It's all so effective that a portion of what's in that movie is lost, at least on initial viewings. And when you tell someone that they don't understand a movie, people bristle right away because they think you're challenging their intelligence or you're being an elitist. But I don't think that that's the case in this situation, because I also didn't connect with the other aspects of this movie when I first saw it, because the horror elements are so effective. It has nothing to do with your intelligence or how you watch movies or whatever. It is the fact that the movie is so damned disturbing that you don't initially catch the other aspects of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre on one viewing. And that is the fact that it is also a black comedy. It is a dark comedy. It was intended to be funny in parts. Not, zany, laugh out loud funny, but sort of smirky type of humor. Like, oh, I see what you did there. Because it has some social commentary built into it, and it's making fun of a lot of things. Tobe Hooper, the director, I think has always taken it personal that people didn't connect with that aspect of his movie. And for years after that movie was made, he never wanted to do another one. He was not going to do a sequel. And the Cannon Group came to him and struck a deal with him in the 80s, 86 to be specific, to do a couple of other movies if he would do a sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it allowed him to work with a cinematographer he had always wanted to work with. It allowed him to work with a writer he had always wanted to work with. And I think in his mind, it probably gave him the opportunity to expand on elements of the original film that people didn't lock onto. And while I love that aspect of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, a lot of people didn't. The movie came out, it bombed, it wasn't great, and even to this day, people still hate the movie because tonally it feels so different than the original film. So what he did and has said in subsequent interviews with TCM2 is two things. One, he was able to bring in Tom Savini and amp up the gore, because there wasn't a lot of gore in the original film, and in the years after his first movie came out, the gore levels in movies had gone so high. He wanted to be a part of that. So he brought in Tom Savini and he amped up the gore. The other aspect is the social commentary and humor. And that is the part that really sets people off, because they didn't connect with the humor in the first film and still don't. And it seems like you would have, back in the day when that movie came out, if you were able to see it in the theater, I guess I would assume there had to be some sort of, hint about the movie. Because let me just pull this Vinegar Syndrome. I've done a full unboxing of this thing before, but I'll just show it to you really quick. Nice hard box. New custom artwork from them on the inside. We get this beautiful slip with the original art, and then some cool, sort of comic book art on the back, and then another piece of art on the inside. Very cool. But to the point I was trying to make was they were hinting at what they were doing with this movie from the marketing. Because take a look. Is this image familiar to you other than the fact that this reminds me of going to the video store in the 90s and renting movies. But it should remind you also of this. Literally, this movie in its marketing was making fun of this movie. Social commentary was happening. The focus of this movie are these kids. Honestly, they are the victims in this movie. I mean, in the first movie it was hippies, and then in the second movie it became, the yuppie kids, I guess, is what they were. I guess that's what they called them. So the movie expands on the family. Basically, they are making award-winning chili. They start the film off by winning an award for their chili, which is made of, obviously, humans. We get Chop Top. We still have Leatherface. We get an expansion of the family, the characters of the family. Chop Top is a brother to the original hitchhiker, and Chop Top has a lot of social commentary years later. He wasn't in the first film because he was in Vietnam, apparently. And years later now, he has a plate, and there's a lot of social commentary that happens, and really funny stuff. Riffing on, the experience of being a teenager in the 70s and growing up in the 80s or whatever, with the Vietnam War as a heavy part of your life. And then we get the dad who, is just a small businessman trying to make a living, and there's a great joke about taking it in the rear. The small businessman always takes it in the rear, so there's a lot of social commentary happening. And also what happens that's wonderful in this film is it is an ensemble. Leatherface, obviously you go for Leatherface. For me, I go for Leatherface and I stay for Chop Top. Also Stretch is not in this image because she is the Scream Queen, so she is not featured particularly here, but we do see her in other marketing materials, and she's fantastic. She is an underappreciated Scream Queen. But this is a very silly movie. It is gory as hell. It is very silly. And because of that, people don't appreciate it. But if you look at Evil Dead, for example, Evil Dead was much more of a serious horror film. It was kind of campy, but it was also more serious. Well, when Sam Raimi did the second one, he was able to take some of the humor that was in the first film and amp it up and blow it up. And people love it for that. And that franchise continued to get funnier with Army of Darkness, and it was accepted and appreciated. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when it took the little bit of humor that was present in the first one and amped it up in the second one, it was very much not appreciated. And that's why I say to me, I love it just as much as the first one. I appreciate the humor that's in the first one, and I appreciate the connectivity of that humor and the humor in the second one. And I love the second one just as much. The second one, to me, is infinitely more watchable. It's just a fun watch, whereas the first one is an experience. You've got to get mentally ready to experience it. I recommend giving the second one a different chance with the knowledge that dark humor was in the first one. Maybe rewatch the first one and look for the humor in it, and you'll see it. And then watch the second one, and you'll see that it is a natural expansion and is a much better movie than it has been given credit for. I am just happy that over the years, the cult following has kind of blown up for TCM2, and a lot more people seem to be appreciating it. It's kind of like the situation with, I compare it the most to Halloween 3. Halloween 3 is a fun movie, but was hated for many years because it was so different than the first two films. But it was what Carpenter intended with the franchise. And I feel the same about TCM2. It is what Tobe Hooper intended the franchise to be. On to the special features and this particular release, because this is also a bonus features breakdown. I do want to talk about what is in this package. As a student of film, and I guess to some degree, definitely a curator. I definitely curate my collection. I don't archive. I don't buy everything, but I do like to have an archival library version of things that I love. And this release from Vinegar Syndrome is definitely that. And I'm so thankful for this, because when you look at the IMDb of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, Tobe Hooper, we have lost. He has passed away. L.M. Kit Carson, the co-writer, has passed away. Dennis Hopper has passed away. Jim Sedow has passed away. We are losing everybody involved in this film. I'm thankful that Bill Moseley and Carolyn Williams, who is Stretch, are still working and still vibrant and still doing things. But as I said, Jim Sedow, who else? Someone else I know. The actor, and I'm drawing a blank on his name now. It's the actor that played RJ. He has also passed away. Yeah, I can't see him at the moment. He's not featured here on this particular page, but I know he is gone. Point is, I'm thankful that this release has pulled together interviews with all these people that we have lost, so that we can still, for many years to come, hear their stories and their experiences of making this movie and learn from what they brought us. So that's the point of physical media collecting in a lot of ways for me. So we get the film in 4K with HDR, of course, has its original stereo theatrical mix, has a brand new audio commentary with film critic Patrick Bromley. Now, I know Patrick Bromley is a very knowledgeable person, but I've said before, I don't care usually about these kinds of commentaries. I really want stuff from people who were involved in the film, and we get that. We get an archival commentary from Tobe Hooper, archival commentary with Bill Moseley and Carolyn Williams, and special effects makeup producer Tom Savini. That one I have not listened to before, and I'm very excited to watch the movie with that turned on. You get one commentary with the cinematographer Richard Kors and the production designer Carrie White. The Saw and Savini is a brand new 2022 interview, special effects makeup creator Tom Savini. Anytime you can get Tom Savini to talk, it's going to be a good time. He's charismatic, he loves what he does, and he loves the people that he works with. Stretch Lives is a brand new 2022 interview with actress Carolyn Williams. Carolyn Williams is so much fun. She loves this movie. She's got great stories, and she's still working. She's still doing film. She's still, if you go to her IMDb, as of 2022, she had something still coming out that she had done. So Serving Tom is a brand new 2022 interview with special makeup effects artist Gabe Bartalos. He's gone on to do a lot of other things in the industry, so hearing him talk is really great. We get Remember the Alamo. It's a brand new 2022 interview with actor Kirk Sisko. So I love all these interviews. Every single interview in here of these new ones have a fresh perspective all these years later and have some new stories to tell. I wish they had been cut together in a project rather than just being separate little interviews. Texas Bloodbath is a brand new 2022, I don't know why I'm tripping over that, interview with special makeup effects artist Barton Mixon. These are all great because the thing about this movie is it's so gory. There's so much special effects and stuff in this movie. These guys have a lot to talk about. It goes overboard with the gore, and I love it for that. Die Yuppie Scum is a brand new 2022 interview with actor Barry Kenyon. Kenyon played one of the two yuppies at the very beginning that gets killed. So this is going deep, and it was fun to hear him talk about the film. Leatherface Revisited is a brand new 2022 interview with actor Bill Johnson. Obviously, a great one. I'm sad that Gunnar Hansen wasn't Wasn't Leatherface again, but it is what it is. Beneath the Battleland is Remembering the Lair, a brand new 2022 featurette with actors Carolyn Williams, Barry Kenyon, Bill Johnson, and Kirk Sisko. So this focuses a little bit on the lair section, which is where a lot of the film takes place. That set is incredible. And this is one thing that I think connects this movie with the first one, is that it feels gory, it feels dirty, it feels disgusting. Watching the movie, you feel like you can smell it. It feels real and surreal at the same time, and that is something that carries over between the two films. And I don't know if that is a Tobe Hooper thing and just who he chooses or chose at that time to do his set design, but it definitely carries across both films, and it makes the movies so much better. You know, when you look at that set, they talk about having over a 1/4-mile long path that they had to build and create and design so that they could do the running sequences. Filmmakers today would just do that with CG. They would just have them run down a green hallway and put it in later. And this feels so earthy and real because it's a built set. So anytime they're talking about that particular part of the film, I'm riveted. Never before seen extended interview with director Tobe Hooper and co-producer Cynthia Hargrave. It's from director Mark Hartley's documentary entitled Electric Boogaloo: The Wild Untold Story of Cannon Films. I need to get a hold of this documentary because I love Cannon Films. And what I love about this extended interview, I guess these are sequences that maybe weren't used for that documentary. They are still mostly focused on the distribution deal and how they worked with Cannon Films. Cannon Films, if you don't know, I think they focused more on action. Like, I know they did a big chunk of the Chuck Norris action movies like Delta Force and the Missing in Action movies, and I think they may have done some of the Rambo stuff. Lots and lots and lots of, they did Sho Kosugi action things, Revenge of the Ninja and those kind of things, all through the late 70s through the late 80s. That's what they were doing. Well, the story goes, as we learn from these special features, and I'm not going to give you the whole story. I really want you to watch these special features and experience it. But through these interviews, you learn about how Tobe Hooper met with Cannon and how the film came together. The biggest part is they made a deal at the Cannes Film Festival, started work on the script in February, finished shooting the film and released it by August of that same year. That's just unheard of. And there's a lot of stuff in here from the writer about how they were continuing to write as they were filming, and you really got to see it. It's so fascinating. Some of the better documentary stuff, behind the scenes documentary stuff you'll find. There's a documentary called It Runs in the Family. That's the 85-minute documentary on the making of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I believe that was made around 2005, 2006. This is not new. That was something that was already made that they acquired for this release. I'm so glad. Yuppie Meat is an interview with actors Chris Durbus and Barry Kenyon. Again, the Yuppies from the very beginning of the film. Their story is okay. I mean, they're barely in the movie, but it's still interesting to hear them talk about it. Cutting Moments is an interview with editor Alan Jakubowicz, maybe? He talks about how he found his way into Cannon through, I believe it was Delta Force. I think that's what it was that he edited. And was brought on to this movie to figure it out because it was too long. And they had made a deal already. The film was pre-sold to theaters and needed to be as close to 90 minutes as it could be for the number of showings that they had agreed on per day. So he had to come in and edit the film. And I actually think that the film was pretty well edited. And again, he is still working today. You can look at his IMDb. So I also think part of the other job that the editor had to do was to bring in more of, quote, the monster. Because it sounds like what happened was Golden Meyer, Golan and Meyer, the heads of Canon Group, saw the original film, wanted to make a sequel to that movie. They wanted to trade on that IP. So they went to Tobe Hooper and said, make a movie. I don't think they even read the script, because everything, all the humor, all of the stuff that's in the film was in the script. But when they saw the film, they didn't like it either in their screening. And one of the quotes that you hear in the interviews is that they went to Hooper and said, we want to see the monster. We want more of the monster. So the movie was misunderstood from the get-go. And if the movie was misunderstood by its distribution company, then it was not going to be properly marketed. I think the riff on the Breakfast Club poster is brilliant, but I don't think much more was done marketing-wise after that. And that would eventually lead to the downfall of the movie. And part of the reason it's still misunderstood today. Behind the Mask is an interview with stuntman and Leatherface performer Bob Elmore. So just to clarify, the very, very, very opening sequence of TCM Part 2 is a different actor, as you see here, and you'll learn in these special features right there. The stuntman actually did the Leatherface opening sequences. Horror's Hallowed Grounds is an old series. I don't know if this was a TV show or if it was something on Sci-Fi Channel. I can't remember, to be honest. They call it a featurette here, but I know it was a series, and it was basically where you had a personality would go to the shooting locations of a film. Sadly, most of the locations are gone. He does find evidence of some of them, and it's pretty cool, including one particular restaurant that I do intend to visit the next time I go to Austin, Texas. Still Feeling the Buzz is an interview with author and film historian Stephen Thrower. Stephen Thrower is an icon in the behind-the-scenes movie industry. He's on everything. He's written a number of books. It's okay. It's fine. Again, I'm less interested in this stuff than I am hearing from people that really were involved in the movie. 43-minute behind-the-scenes video footage shot during the film production. I loved this, you guys. This is where I'm talking about you see sequences of the actors blocking, and you see Tobe Hooper calling action, and then, checking the shots, holding one time for an airplane flying over. All the real filmmakery stuff. This footage looks like hot garbage, but it is so beautiful to have it on this set. There's an alternate opening sequence, which I had never seen before. This was probably previously on another release, I'm not sure. There are deleted scenes. There are original theatrical trailers for the US and Japan. There were TV spots. There were extensive promotional still image galleries, what they say. And then there were, of course, we have the reversible artwork. And, they always include subtitles in their list. That's the complete list of what's on here. It was a whole day. I spent a whole day going through all these extras, and it is incredible. It is incredible. And just to circle back, if you don't like this movie, I would ask you, again, rewatch the original film, looking for the dark humor, because you've probably seen it many times at this point, and then visit this one and see that it's the same. I think you will see that it is the same sort of progression that we see with the Evil Dead movies, 1 and 2, where it's, the horror is there, the humor is there, it's just a little bit, it's dialed back, and then the second one, boom, we get that pop, and it really comes to life and is doing what it wanted to do. So that is my thoughts on the special features for Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 and for the film itself. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's talk about it. Maybe we'll do a watch party and we'll do a running commentary and talk about this movie at some point or something like that if you guys want to. But come on, look at that. Oh, sorry. Look at it, you guys. This is a sense of humor right there. I love it. Until next we meet, pull something cool off the shelf, share it with friends and family, and remind them why physical media is the best way to watch films and TV at home. I'll see you guys on the next one.